Yo guys, how are we doing? And welcome back to the next episode of my NQT Diaries show. Now, I want to call it a show rather than a series because series, I don't know, kind of suggests there's going to be an end to it, whereas a show kind of insinuates more longevity. And my intention for this is to just give you all an update as to how my work is going for me as an NQT, with the intention that by the end of this year and going into next September, that I can possibly roll it on as a teacher diary series or show rather than just an NQT one. So hopefully that will work out in my favour. Anyway guys, today has been quite a challenging week. Different challenges than before. There are some very good points to this week and things that I have done that I hadn't had the opportunity to do yet. But we have 2 weeks left until half term, and both teachers and teaching staff, as well as the children, are kind of feeling it. I think everyone's getting a bit tired now. It's been a really good start to the term and start to the year, but as you can imagine, everyone is starting to kind of get a bit tired. We will be starting our 7th week next week, so everyone is kind of ready for a bit of a break. So in today's video, I am going to be talking a little bit about general tiredness and emotion this week, because there's been quite a lot of emotion going through everyone, children and staff. There was an incident that happened this week that I want to talk to you guys about. I won't be able to talk in too much detail, but it was something that I hadn't experienced so far in school, so it was a bit that's interesting. I went on my first training course, and it was World Mental Health Day this week, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I did with the children in order to get them to reflect on mental health. Right. I also have a slightly different setup going on. Now, I've used soft boxes in the past. Soft boxes, for those of you who don't know, are basically those big light boxes that shine on you to make you brighter. I did order 2 new ones that have different settings, which are a little bit fancier. So if I'm looking a bit sharper and clearer at the moment in comparison to my other videos, it's because at the moment they are behind the camera and they are just illuminating me. But yeah, so you can see here that I'm just sort of setting them up. They are pretty easy to set up. I mean, it takes a little while. It took me a little while to set them up originally, because the one I had from before, it was a little bit more of a simple setup, whereas these ones took a little bit more time. But they are really beneficial for the video side of things, because it just makes the picture a bit clearer and it supports the camera, which is obviously really good. So yeah, so that's my new setup. It's something that I'm going to obviously use. It means I can film at different times of day, because if it's dark in here, it means that it doesn't matter if there's not much light coming from outside, natural light coming from outside, because I can use these. They have the white light, which is what I'm using at the moment, but there's also like a sort of a warmer light that can change. I'm not going to get into it too much. Right guys, without me boring you too much about my lights, let's get into the video and let's talk about my week. Let's do it. Alright guys, so let's start on Monday. So Monday was a good day. I was feeling fresh, I was feeling good, and it was the first day that, or the first time we fully finished our Golden Rite. So the morning up until lunch was taking up with our Golden Rite, and the Golden Rite essentially was where I gave the children the time to plan and write their piece of work, in literacy to demonstrate that they've understood the themes of the lesson so far. So we spent the first 2 or 3 weeks looking at our grammar and looking at our punctuation. So the use of, for the year 3s, the use of finger spacing, the use of capital letters, full stops. And then for the year 4s, we were looking and focusing more on things like exclamation marks and question marks. And we were also looking at past and present tense for both year groups and how it can change the meaning of their work depending on how they use it. Now, Golden Rites are really good. Most of the children actually really enjoy it because it's very little, if any, input from me as the teacher and for the TAs, except for a little bit of support on some of the, the trickier parts of their Golden Rite. But it's their opportunity to plan their own piece of work and to write their own piece of work with little distractions, just using what they already know. They can obviously look at the boards that we have up, the displays, and they can also get dictionaries and thesauruses to support them. But the idea is that they're not coming up to me and my TAs and being like, what does this mean? And what do I have to write here? And I don't understand. The idea is that it's very left up to them to show that they understand. And they often enjoy it because it means that they've got the freedom to write without having a teacher lurking over the top of them. From a teacher's perspective, it's also really good because when I marked them yesterday, on Friday, when I marked them Saturday today, when I marked them yesterday, it meant that I had a really good look at which children really understood those fundamentals of the punctuation and the grammar, and which ones didn't use them as freely, which children sort of took good responsibility of their work and wrote a lot of work, which kind of pulled back a bit and wrote the minimum. So it means that coming into the next couple of weeks when we do another golden right at the end of the term, I'm aware who to focus my attention on more, who had that grammar and who had that punctuation down, and those that struggled a bit more. And then we come on to Tuesday, guys. Tuesday morning so up until lunch, was actually pretty relaxed. We'd done the golden right, so I introduced the children to some different forms of writing, and we moved on again in maths, so the morning went quite smoothly. The afternoon was a bit of a boiling pot of various different things. We had quite a fun afternoon. It was a very interactive afternoon, but often it depends on the children, depends on their age. When things are really interactive, sometimes the children get a bit carried away and they don't know when to stop. And I had this on Tuesday. So we were looking at volcanoes. I did quite an interactive bit of work on Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius, so I played a video and I was talking to them, and I got them to do a little reenactment of what they would do if they were in Pompeii when Mount Vesuvius erupted, and it was really good. And then the last thing that we did was I had made the class a sort of model volcano using a shoebox and a plastic bottle and some stuff called Mod Rock, which if you haven't ever used Mod Rock and you are a teacher, get some. Basically, Mod Rock is the stuff that people put on their arms or on their legs when they break them, right? That casting. So it goes quite hard and it's quite durable when it dries, but it's pre-made. So it comes in like a roll, and it's got all of the powder on the outside, which eventually solidifies and turns really hard. And it's just like netting. So you just cut strips off, you put it in some water, you don't need to soak it, you just place it in water, take it out again, and then lay it and create whichever structure you want. So for me, I just had a piece of cardboard, I put a small plastic bottle in the middle, and then I scrunched up some paper around to make like the boulders and the mountain effect, and then I just gently layered the Mod Rock over it so that it created like a bumpy mountain look. I got this volcano that I had made, and I did the whole bicarbonate of soda and vinegar, add a little bit of fairy liquid. Fairy liquid is really good, not specifically fairy liquid, the brand, but just washing up liquid, and a little bit of red food colouring. And when you mix it all together, the fairy liquid or the fairy liquid and the food colouring changes the colour. So obviously I use red, and it makes it all frothy. And I know the reaction froths up anyway, but it accentuates that. And so I did that, and I gave it a little bit of a shake, and slowly it came out and it looked a bit like flowing lava, and it was really great. Except despite the fact that, I mean, I'd done this experiments where children have had to gather around tables before, and I tried my best to make sure that there was crowd control, but even with doing that, and I had my TAs around, there were still children crying because someone had elbowed them, and oh, this child's getting upset and has sat down because they've squashed in or they're leaned over the table, and I think it just reached a boiling point where my year 3s just couldn't deal with the intensity of like, oh my god, it's a volcano, I'm so excited, and they all started buzzing, and it was like, ah! It was an interesting afternoon. It got to after school, and I decided, and I had agreed that I was going to stick around for a bit because you need extra bodies for after school club, not to run it per se, but just to have another adult on site in case something happened. And unfortunately on Tuesday something did happen, and one of the children in after school club hurt themselves, and it did a couple of things for me. Firstly, it made me think about the protocols that my school has, which you know, obviously you never want it to go this way where an incident happens and then you think about it. But it did make me think about it. But it also saw how well, even though I'm a new member of staff, how well we all came together to sort the situation out, and the child that had hurt themselves was well supported and was made comfortable until their parents came to pick them up. And actually the whole thing was quite well run. But like I say, it did make me think about the protocols and about how we as a school and we as a body of staff handle situations like that. So if you're watching this and you haven't yet had to deal with something like this before, and I'm not going to explain what exactly happened because it's not appropriate, but you know, if you're a teacher or you're a new qualified teacher and you haven't experienced this with your current team, maybe think about what you could do to improve or to understand the protocol that's in place, because it might be a case that there isn't one in place and you need to change that, or that the protocol that is in place doesn't fit with the people on specific days. So yeah, that was interesting, but it was good, and it actually like made me feel a bit more of the team, because you know, the people that were running after school club came to me and said, can we have your help? And we worked well as a team, and yeah, you know, the child ended up being okay, but it could have been worse. Now we are on to Wednesday, and Wednesday was actually a really good day. I had my first NQT course on Wednesday afternoon, so firstly it meant that I didn't have to go into school, so I had a bit of a lay-in. I woke up, I did my planning in the morning, and because of where the course was being held, it was only like a 10-minute drive, so actually it was quite a relaxed day, but because of how my Monday and Tuesday had gone, I was pretty tired. Anyway, I had my course, my NQT course, run by Gloucestershire County Council, and it was really good. There were a lot of things that were spoken about that I already knew, but it was also really nice speaking and seeing other NQTs. There were probably, I don't know, 15, 20 of us on the day that were there, and we all got chatting about what we've experienced, how well the schools are going, and as much as I don't want to really like glory in other people's misfortune, I did find out that I'm in quite a good position. I'm being well supported by my school, which is fantastic. There are a couple of people there that weren't being as well supportive. Some had already been hit with Ofsted, which I've not had to deal with yet. So yeah, so it was good. We spoke about behaviour management, and I got some professional opinions on how I manage behaviour management, and I spoke about some of the strategies that I've used. I got this sheet that talks about children's behaviour and like psychologically breaks it down into you know, what the behaviour could possibly mean based on their situation and their scenario, and how we as teachers and teaching staff can support them to improve their behaviour and focus them on their work. So Wednesday was good. Okay, then we come on to Thursday, and Thursday was World Mental Health Day, and schools tend to jump on the bandwagon of looking at world days because it gives you opportunity to do stuff that you otherwise wouldn't. And so ours was looking at mindfulness with focus on sleep, because you know, children tend to want to stay up really late and then they wonder why they're tired and how that affects their emotions. So I started off by discussing with my children about emotions, getting them to come up with good emotions, negative emotions, or I say good, positive emotions and negative emotions, why they're good, why they can be bad, talking about things like, you know, when you're scared or you're angry, that's actually your body's way, your brain's way of trying to protect you. When you're happy and joyful, there are usually reasons for it. And we discussed it, and it was really, really good to hear their comments on it. We spoke then a bit about sleep, and we did a true or false style quiz. And the aim was to just open their eyes up to the benefits of sleep and what can happen to them and their mood if they don't get enough of it, basically. And then afterwards I played them the Headspace app. I managed to download it onto my work computer, I signed up online. And if you haven't used it, it's really cool. It's kind of like a meditation app where, the idea is that you can either use it in the morning to sort of relax yourself, ready for the day ahead, or you can do it before you go into bed to sort of relax yourself and to kind of clear your head so that you get better sleep. Unfortunately, the children had other things on their mind, and most of them could not sit down and do it properly. So the whole point with the Headspace app is that you're relaxed, that you're sitting comfortably. So I moved all of the chairs and tables to the side of the room, we laid out pillows and blankets for them all, and I just told them to find a space on the carpet, lay down. If you need a pillow, pop a pillow under your head, take your shoes off so that you're not worried and fidgeting with your feet, and just relax. And there were the same sort of half a dozen children that I know have, can have issues controlling their behaviour and acting out, that for at least half of it, and I played them 2 videos because of this, made funny noises and they did silly things and they were distracting each other and laughing, and I felt quite bad for the rest of the class because I would say 75% of the children in my class were really engaged. They were laying down, they had their eyes closed, they were relaxed, and they were trying to listen to what the chap who does the headspace sort of narrates it, listen to what he was saying, because there's lots of thinking about your breathing and thinking about the other sounds in the room and what can you feel through your body. It's very good at being, at self-awareness, and unfortunately the few ruined it a little bit for the majority, but it was good, and I kind of got to the end of that day and I was just like, okay. And then we come on to Friday, now I'm filming this video on Saturday. Today is Saturday. The reason I didn't film it last night, which I would normally do, is because I was shattered. Yeah, the children were just on one from the moment they walked in the door, and I do put it down to the fact that it was Friday and it's coming towards the end of a term now. We've got 2 weeks left before the October half term, so yeah, it was quite long. It's been quite a long term. The winter ones always are. It's been an 8-week term or 7.5-week term, and then the one leading up to Christmas is very similar in length too. So I ran the children through their literacy and I ran them through their maths in the morning. But to be honest, I cut both the lessons short because the attention spans of them has dropped massively, and if anything, they were getting frustrated and upset because they were struggling with the work. And I think because of that, a lot of them were getting quite emotional. So if they felt like they were getting stuck on questions, whereas before they would have pushed through it, or they would have had a bit more resilience, because of how tired they're getting, and it was a Friday, they kind of went down the emotional route of dealing with it instead and got a bit upset. Which, they're children, you've got to expect it. It's a Friday. I was feeling tired and having to manage my own emotion, and so children are less in tune with that, and so they respond in different ways. And then Friday afternoon we had golden time, and I got the children again reflecting on the day before, so that whole mindfulness thing, and I got them to just draw their idea of what 4 different emotions were. I think it was happy, I think there was anger, there was happiness, there was sadness, and then there was excitement. It was something like that, and I kind of gave an idea of what I would do on the board, putting different colours. Some could draw pictures using different sort of resources. So yeah, and then golden time sort of settled them down a bit, chilled them out, ready for home time. So there we go, that was my week, and like I say, I would have filmed this yesterday, but I was so tired that I pretty much came back in. I had jitsu, so obviously I taught jitsu last night, but I came back in, I made myself some dinner, and then I just chilled on the sofa until jitsu. And yeah, and then this morning I had jitsu, but it was, I had a bit more of a lay-in. So yeah, so it was a tiring week. My advice to you guys is to adapt your teaching. If you know that your children are struggling because it's been a long week, or they're tired, it's coming closer to the end of term, try to give them a bit more leeway. Think about what you could do with them that's still learning and developing them, but in less of a sort of tightly knit way. Do some games with them instead of expecting them to write on worksheets, or do practicals with them and allow them to relax into things more. And there's no reason why you can't go off curriculum. Go off curriculum at one day or one afternoon in the week and do something a bit different. Right, I'm going to wrap this video up now. There was quite a lot to say, and I've probably rambled a little bit, so I do apologise. I am trying to keep these videos a bit shorter. Right, I will endeavour to get another video out midweek. I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about. I have got an idea in my head of a series or like another show that I would quite like to get up and running. But with all these things, it takes quite a lot of planning, and I don't have all that much time at the moment because school is so busy. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up now. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Comment if you want to know anything about what I've done or about my week. And if you're not already, please consider subscribing. Right. See you later, guys. Bye.